Welcome to our first edition of Agent Advice, our collaborative series between the New Hampshire Insurance Department and the New Hampshire Association of Independent Insurance Agents, also known as the Big I, which is a collaborative series to help educate producers about the complexities of insurance regulation. My name is Keith Nine. I'm the Deputy Commissioner here at the Insurance Department. I am honored to be here today with Commissioner DJ Betancourt and Big I President Joan Pejo. Welcome.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
That being said, I do have some questions here for you. Let's jump right into this. And Joan, my first question is for you, which is, as you know, the Insurance Department does receive complaints from the public concerning licensees. In your opinion, what should producers do when they are contacted by the Insurance Department? How should they react to those inquiries?
Well, thank you very much, first of all, for starting this series. I am very excited to be partnering with you to do this. I'm going to start by saying that I believe our members, producers, will react in one of three ways when they get an inquiry. The first one is they're angry. They know about the complaint, they think it's completely baseless, so they set that inquiry aside. Second, they're scared. They are scared of you guys. So they just don't want any part of it. They set that inquiry aside. The third is they're confident. That's where we want all of our members to be, that they're confident enough in what they're doing and how they're doing it. When they get an inquiry from you, they're going to get in touch. And I think what most of our members don't realize, even though we talk about it at every pre-licensing class, is that the law and the Insurance Department demand that you respond to these inquiries and to respond within 10 business days.
Absolutely. Mr. Betancourt, you have anything to add, or?
Well, I will just say I'm a bit saddened and humbled to hear that they might be scared, Keith. You and I are big teddy bears.
Absolutely.
Nothing to be scared about with us two.
I will tell you, 20 years ago, I was scared of you guys. So.
Well, we've certainly tried to make the culture more collaborative and welcoming. Keith, you bring up the calls, and I think it's just informative for folks to know that we'll get in about 6,000 calls approximately a year into the department. And the vast majority of those calls are from consumers who just have questions. They don't understand a term in their policy, or they can't understand how they're supposed to engage the process to file a claim. All of those types of things, they'll come to us and seek some guidance and some answers to those things. And I will say, in reaction to that, at the end of those calls, we always do encourage the consumer to work with an independent agent, because they can be a great resource to them. So that, we'll obviously take their call, and we're obviously always happy to help and be a resource, but that independent agent can also be a great resource to them too. But of the 6,000 calls, there'll be about 500 of them that will be a formal complaint against a producer of some kind. Now, that's, by the way, not always to say that that complaint is founded. Right. They may just, again, be confused, or they don't understand what's happening. And so they'll complain thinking that somebody has done something wrong, when in fact nothing has actually gone wrong. And again, there'll be an education component there for the consumer, again, to understand why there's been no violation of law. They just need to take X, Y, or Z steps to get back, to get their situation back on track. The other thing that I'll say is, though, when our department calls, whether it be our consumer division or our enforcement division, the first thing is to not assume that you are in trouble. Yeah. You may very well have nothing to do with the immediate issue, but our teams are very thorough in their investigations and in their fact-finding. And so they may be calling you just to get some information or to get some background about a situation. Or in some cases, you may have an area of expertise that we think is useful to us in how we're going to pursue, again, a matter entirely unrelated to you. So first and foremost, don't assume that you're the subject of something bad. The other thing I'll say, and Joan hit upon this, which is very important, is please do be sure to respond, because you might not be the subject of an investigation. There may be absolutely no disciplinary action or unpleasantness coming from that phone call that you receive, but it will turn into a problem for you if you choose not to respond. And we've been dealing with a lot of that lately. Thankfully not from very many New Hampshire producers, but from producers from out of state. And again, there'll be a formal disciplinary process that will take place for that non-responsiveness. So please do return the call when we call. In terms of what the producer can expect. So they're not going to get a copy of the formal complaint itself. We can't do that because of confidentiality protections. But our team at the same time is not going to be playing a game of hide the ball. We're looking to try to resolve an issue as productively and with as least amount of drama as possible. So they're going to give the producer plenty of information as to what the consumer's issue is, what their complaint might be, what we're thinking perhaps at that particular time, again, all with an eye towards a successful resolution. And then we're going to look for you to collaborate with us to figure out how we, again, come to a successful conclusion at the end of it all.
I would actually add to that, it's a great opportunity, and part of a core part of the investigation process is the department wants the agent statement, in his or her own words, what happened. We're not taking just one side's information as gospel. We want to hear both sides of the story as part of that investigation. So Joan, as you know, many times producers themselves also have, if not complaints, they're out in the field, they're really the ears and eyes into the insurance marketplace, if you will. If a producer finds a problem or sees a situation that doesn't quite pass that sniff test, what should producers do?
Well, again, I think it's what stage are they in? Are they still afraid of you, or are they confident? And I think they're getting more and more confident because of the amazing work you guys are doing in your outreach. I'll just say that right out front. And once they get to that confidence stage, then they're going to call you directly. Until then, they're going to call me, and I'll bring their issue forward as much as I can, or at least make introductions so that they're a little bit more comfortable. I mean, they've known me for 27 years, so you know, they're comfortable with me.
Well, obviously, we're very accustomed to taking calls from you and working with you, and I think I speak on Commissioner on behalf of our entire Consumer Services Division. We'd love to hear from the producers themselves, so
yes.
Pick up that phone call and give us a call. 800-852-3416. Got to get that plug in there. All right, Commissioner, heading back to you. When do you suggest licensees reach out to the department? Is there a particular action that triggers something for you that they should be reaching out to us about? Or?
Look, we're here as a resource, first and foremost. And as everyone knows, I take a very broad definition of consumer, right? The department's core mission here is consumer protection. But again, I have a very broad definition of consumer, which for me also includes our producers. We're here to be a resource, we're here to be a help. So if they're aware of something that's going on, or if they potentially see a problem, or if they've made a mistake, reach out to us and let us know in advance. I want to be very clear. For me, in terms of my philosophy, and I know Keith shares this as well, we're not here to be punitive.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to come in right away, break down the doors, and start making accusations and, you know, skip the opportunity for the producer to have their opportunity to share with us what happened, provide us with the documentation that we need to resolve the issue, you know, before we get to whatever the punishment is going to be. First and foremost, our focus is let's correct the mistake, let's correct whatever conduct has happened, so that we ensure that it doesn't happen again, that a consumer is not negatively impacted by that mistake or that conduct again. That's the first focus. And then after that, we'll figure out how we inject some accountability into that. And for me, by the way, that may very well mean, hey, look, would like you to check in with us every couple of months to let us know how things are going. Want to make sure that you've put the appropriate adjustments or reforms into your process or how you're approaching something to, again, safeguard against that mistake happening again. Our first go-to is not looking to pull anybody's license or to drop a gigantic fine on them. That's just not what we're about. I mean, we'll use those tools when we need to, and when the conduct rises to a level where that's the appropriate way to ensure justice in whatever the case may be. But that's not where we start. We always start by, again, trying to be collaborative, to fix the problems, and then to ensure that those problems remain fixed so that we'll learn together. You know, we're going to get as much information from that producer as they're going to get to us. So again, the theme there is let's collaborate, let's work together to resolve the issue, and try to take as much of the fear factor out of the equation as we can.
Right, and I think that you brought up a really good point about if you've made a mistake, you know, don't lose sleep over it for 3 weeks before you tell somebody. You know, back in the day, an agent could probably call an insurance company and say, look, I made a mistake, and can I get you to do X? A lot of those days are gone, and but if that does happen, don't just sit there and let it fester, because at some point, a little tiny spark is going to turn into a bonfire.
I think you both bring up a great point, which is something that we even tout with our insurance carriers, which is self-reporting a problem is much better in the long run than waiting for our market conduct team or an investigator, whether it be a fraud investigator or a consumer services investigator, to find that issue. Self-report, and Commissioner, I think you said it very, very well. We're here to collaborate and kind of work through the issues.
Well, let me drop a bit of a bombshell here. We're not perfect either. We'll make mistakes from time to time. And when those happen, we get to work right away on fixing them. So there's no expectation here in this department that people are going to be perfect. At the end of the day, we're all humans. We're going to make mistakes. And to Keith's point, it's how you manage that mistake that's going to make all the difference in the world. If you come forward and say, hey, I really made a mistake here, I didn't mean to, or I thought I was doing X, but it turned out to be Y, that is going to be a far more pleasant experience for you in working with us to fix the problem with as little punishment or consequence as possible. Whereas you've said, if you fester on that thing for 3 weeks, it's going to eat that person up internally, which is not anything we want to see. But the worst thing you can do by far is to then attempt to cover up the mistake or compound the mistake that's been made. Then you're really looking at some trouble, so don't do that.
Yeah, because a cover-up always compounds the problem.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So as we wrap up and transition to final comments, I'll make one comment here myself, which is if a producer has a question where perhaps there's an issue that he or she is trying to address that may be running in that not so black and white area of the law, it's a gray area. If you have the question, reach out to us. We'd certainly rather address that issue on the front end rather than the back end. So that having been said, final thoughts, Joan?
I am just thrilled to death to be here with you both. This series, and I hope it has a long run, will go a long way in getting all of our members to that confidence stage, which is where we want them.
Very good. Commissioner?
Well, I'll say I have great respect and admiration for our producers. They serve an absolutely critical function, not just within the insurance industry, but within our society. They're working with people every day to ensure that the individuals and the families and the businesses or whatever entities that are out there that need those core coverages are getting the coverages that they need, importantly at a price that they can afford. But they're a wonderful resource. They're going to sit down with that individual and really get to know them on a real deep personal level. So again, they're tailoring the coverages to the individual's needs. And so I've got great respect for the Big I and everything that you all do.
Thank you.
But also for those producers. Look, I'll leave you with this. This department has worked really hard to be a good resource for the insurance industry, especially our producers. We've got webinars that are out there. We've got podcasts that are out there. We do newsletters. We send out a lot of press releases, some of which actually get in the newspaper. But hopefully industry is reading them as well, because we want to keep everybody up to speed on what's happening in the legislature, what's happening within the department, how we are working to implement particular laws that are impacting the industry. So we hope that the producers will learn from us just as much as we want to learn from them, again, to keep that collaborative relationship strong and healthy. And so hopefully this series will be a very valuable tool in continuing that work.